One of the values of Finishing Well Ministries is what I would call intergenerational ministries. You know, in any church, there are at least 5 generations, perhaps 6. So the question is, how do these generations minister to each other? You know, for example, little children energize grandparents. I mean, there's nothing greater as a grandparent than being around your little grandkids. It's just fun to watch them. They make you laugh. But let's think about that. What values and strengths does each generation bring to the church? And how can they interface with each other intentionally so that everybody is growing? Younger people can help older people. Older people can help younger people at all levels. Let me give you a biblical illustration of this. In Hebrews chapter 12, the writer of Hebrews says, since we're surrounded by just witnesses all over heaven, and he has just named them in chapter 11 of Hebrews when he went through the hall of faith, he now says we're surrounded by aging people. So when we live every day, it is as though heaven is filled with a grandstand of aging people cheering us on. So we shouldn't live in our generation today without thinking of previous generations and what those people went through. Well, imagine a church that would do that. You know, here are teenagers hearing the stories of older people. Here are young parents hearing the stories of grandparents. Here are grandparents hearing the stories and challenges of younger parents as they rear their children in a totally different age and culture than what these older people had reared their kids in. Can you imagine the impact of a church that thrives on intergenerational stories and life-on-life experiences? Just like we value the lives of old saints. And Paul says everything written in the Old Testament is written for our advantage. Well, everything lived in prior generations is lived for our generations. So the church shouldn't have this separation of millennials versus the silent generation versus the boomers versus, Generation X. But the church and church leaders ought to strategize how we can bring these generations together in worship, in life experiences, in everything. Singing old songs, including new songs, and the church worships and lives together as a truly intergenerational body of Christ. Think of the impact